Yeah, man. Real quick, what do you do? What does Jake do in his spare time?
Yeah, I'm big into the podcast scene, so I love watching. I don't know if you've seen I Am Athlete. That's a big
Yep,
podcast that's been coming up.
yep,
The Pivot, obviously, the guys that left that kind of started their own thing. The Pivot. I've been watching that new. You've seen Coach Dion on YouTube. They've been showing
yep,
some. They follow
yep.
Deion Sanders with the whole HBCU. So I've been watching a lot of that. I've been kind of off of Netflix, to be honest with you. Like I've seen all the stuff on there, all the major things like Suits, Friday Night Lights, Breaking Bad. Like I've seen all the classics, right? So outside of that, it's a bunch of like going out with the roommates. We'll go to like I don't know restaurants in the area, whatever it might be. Obviously, we got like workouts we got to do every day. We got extra throwing sessions that we got. We got practice. We got film. We got coaches meetings, things like that. So I'm involved in a lot of those decisions and things that go along with that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
Got it, man. If you guys see over right here, my shoulder, this interview is sponsored by Hylux Vitamin Water. And I want to just share something with you guys really quick. Moving forward, I have a sponsorship deal now moving forward with Hylux Vitamin Water. What Hylux Vitamin Water is, it is a hydration regimented vitamin water. There's four different electrolyte sources, complex vitamins, B complex vitamins actually, so it's B3, B6, and B12. It's packed with vitamin C, 1.3 times more potassium than a banana. It hydrates quickly and effectively, and no preservatives or artificial ingredients. If you guys are looking for a healthy choice, please switch over to Hylux Vitamin Water. I wouldn't endorse a product that I didn't like. Let me tell you, man, this stuff is great. If you, Jake, if you're familiar with at all with body armor,
Okay, yeah.
very similar to body armor.
Make sure you like
I
this
think it
video
tastes a little
and
bit better than
subscribe.
body armor personally, not just because I'm endorsed by it, but it's really good, man. It's a really good vitamin water. So what I'll do is when we get off and stuff like that, give me your information and I'll send you some. I'll send you some of it for sure.
Hey, that's what's up, man. I'll promote it on my Instagram then for sure.
Yep,
Help you out a
definitely
little
send you
bit.
some of it. Oh yeah, for sure, for
Cool.
sure. Um, so listen, it is my honor. Funny how we met. You know, we met through the whole podcasting thing, and you were watching a interview of mine that I did with one of your childhood friends, Dwayne Wilson, and we just kind of connected, and we kind of I reached out to you, and the story is crazy, man. So let me just go ahead real quick, and I'm gonna intro this, and then we'll get into the nuts and the bolts of this young man that you see on the screen with me right now. Just give me 1 second. New viewers, welcome. Returning viewers, welcome back to Baseline to Goal Line. I am your host, Alan Colbeezy Colburn, and in the building with me right now, please bear with me because this resume is long, but it's worth getting all of this stuff out, man. So I have a high school Hall of Famer, a state champion, matter of fact, the MVP of the state championship, Northeast Conference MVP of the Year, three-time first-team All-Pro, national champion, professional football player overseas. Yes, professional football player overseas. Jake Schimenz is in the building. How you doing, bro?
Man, I appreciate that intro, man. All love, man. I appreciate it.
No doubt, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. There is no complaints. Out in Poland at the moment, the weather's finally starting to get nice. You know, us being from the Midwest, it's kind of that snow. It's kind of the same out here for the winters. So finally, you know, springtime's coming around and it's starting to get nice out here. But yeah, I'm enjoying life. That's for sure.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Before we get into everything, man, what I always do before the show starts is I like to do a toast. I know you can't drink because you're in season right now, so I'm a toast for you, bro.
Yeah. No
So,
worries. I got water with me, so we good.
all right, right now what I have is this is tequila. This is the Rocks tequila. This is Terramana tequila and a little bit of Rose's lime juice. And I also have my Hylux vitamin water, which I'm going to be chasing with. But what we always do is we toast to life, health, wealth, And then last but not least, sports talk. Salute.
Absolutely. Salute, my brother.
Let me go ahead and crack my Hylux. Can't
Yes,
leave this out.
sir. That's the show.
And now we can get the show popping. So, Jake, you grew up in Wisconsin, correct?
That's right. Yep.
Were you?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. More specifically, Brown Deer, Wisconsin. I know you're from there, so you kind of know the area. But yeah, just out the suburb just outside of Milwaukee.
Were you born and raised in Milwaukee?
Yep, born and raised. Yep, lived there the first 18 years of my life. So yeah.
Okay. So as I mentioned, man, with all of the layers that you have to it, in high school you were a four-sport athlete, right? And
That's right. Yeah.
those sports were, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I did my due diligence, so I think I got it now. But
Yeah, you good.
track and field,
Yep.
baseball, basketball,
Yep.
and football, correct?
Yep. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So growing up, okay, how did you, first of all, what made you get into all four sports growing up in high, like even through your childhood and leading into your high school career? But so first of all, let's tackle that. What made you get into all four sports?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was like early on in my life, I fell in love with competition. And so as a competitor, like you don't want to take a season where you're not playing something. So it kind of
Mm-hmm.
started off as that. And then I was having success in a lot of different sports. And so as you know, any person that's pretty good at something, they want to continue to do it. And so I think it was just a competitor in me. I never wanted to take a season where it was just training or just doing this or that. I always wanted to have games. I always wanted to have competition. And I felt like overall, all the different sports helps you get better at the sport that you're trying to really perform at. So like, there's so many things in the game of basketball as a point guard that helps you in the game of football, right? As a quarterback, especially like a point guard's got to dish the ball, they got to get to the playmaker, they got to get the ball to the playmakers. Well, the same things in football, right? You got to read angles, you got to understand leverage. There's all those things that translate really well. Then track and field and baseball, especially baseball, it's the mental side, right? Like you're gonna fail 7 out of 10 times, you're gonna fail 6 out of 10 times, and how do you handle it? And so all of those different things, man, it's like that constant competition. It gets you more familiar with winning, with that just understanding how to become great at something, going through adversity, and all those kind of things is just what made me fall in love with all the different sports.
So even in high school, right? So as I previously mentioned, you played all four sports in high school. Were you more drawn towards one sport as opposed to the other, or were they all kind of like equally yoked?
Yeah, it was pretty equally yoked for the most part. Probably one that, yeah, it's tough, man. I was probably more drawn to football than anything. Football or baseball was probably my one or two. And then track and basketball, obviously, I loved as well. But if I had to choose two, it was probably football and baseball that I was the most drawn to.
Because you ultimately, and of course we'll get here, but I just want to stay with high school right now. But I think it's good to mention this right now because you ultimately went on to play baseball in college, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And did you in college did you play any other sports? Because you got your scholarship through baseball, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. So all right. So, but going back towards the high school, towards high school for basketball, were you a starter all 4 years in high school?
Yeah. Yeah, all 4 years. Yeah. Started at point
Okay.
guard.
Okay. Were you getting any interest for college for basketball?
That's funny you say that. Nothing huge, but my first ever handwritten letter was from the University of Whitewater, and it was for basketball. My first ever letter that was any type of college interest was after my freshman year. I had a decent freshman year. I mean, I was more of a 3-and-D guy. I wasn't anything special. Handle the rock, get the ball to the playmakers, hit threes when you need to, lead the team in assists, that type of player. And so I averaged like 7 points, 4.5 assists or something like that. And that was my first handwritten letter that I got from basketball. But obviously outside of that, there was nothing crazy in the game of basketball. Being a 5'8", 5'9" point guard, you ain't gonna get much. So
Right.
yeah.
So even okay. So now let's just do a small transition to track because ultimately the reason why we are here today, well, all of it takes place, but the reason why we are here today is because of your baseball career leading into your football career professionally that you're playing right now. But I don't want to miss out
Mhm.
anything that's relevant to your story and to who you are as a person. So even with track, what events did you compete in track, and how did you fare?
Yeah, so my best three events were the 400, 800, a mile probably. My major focus was the 800. That was what I was the best at. That's what I won state in. Um, and so the 800 was probably my go-to race, but I dabbled in the 4 and the mile as well. I made it to state my senior year, 2 in the 400. I made it to state all 3 years, or three out of 4 years in the 800. Um, and then yeah, so that was kind of the story. 4, 8, and mile were the three main.
So when I read your bio and it said state champion and game MVP, was that for track?
No, so that was overseas. So
Oh, got it. We'll get there. We'll
yeah,
get
we can
there.
get into that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
We'll definitely get there. Because I'm reading this and I'm reading state champion. Automatically, what someone thinks when they see state champion is high school. You get what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, especially if they
yeah.
don't
Of
know the
course.
small nuances that goes on overseas. But we'll definitely get there. Okay, so
Yeah.
then when it came to track, because you mentioned that you ended up going to state for track as well, in a 400 and,
Mhm.
and in an 800 as well. Were you receiving interest from colleges for track?
Yeah. So after so I won. This is kind of a crazy story with track and field for me. So my sophomore year, I actually won state. So I won the state championship in track. I ran a 157 something. Not that that's relevant, but you'll see why it's relevant in a second. My junior year, I actually
What
ran
what event was
faster.
that
I
in?
ran
I'm
a
sorry,
one.
Jake. I'm sorry. What event was
Yeah.
that in that you won state? Sorry about that.
The 800 meter,
Okay. Okay.
half mile. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
then, yeah. So I won state as a sophomore. The next year, I actually ran faster. I broke the state. I mean, sorry, I broke the school record. Ran a 155. The school record was previously held by, it was like a 20 or 30-year-old career. I mean, record at Brown Deer, Wisconsin, and I ran a 155 something. Broke that. That guy actually ran at the University of Wisconsin. So
Mm.
once I broke that, that's when the interest really started. And I actually took second that year at state. The guy who won it ended up running at the University of Arkansas. He ended up being an All-American at Arkansas, not in the 800, but I think in the mile. I might be wrong on that. Somebody will have to look that up. But
Okay.
anyways, then my senior year, I actually ran even faster than that. So I ran a 153 my senior year. And crazy thing about that race was I actually broke the state record that year, but or the existing state record, but I actually took third. So three of us actually broke the existing state record. That was a 154 flat before that race. So three of us broke it in the same race, which was crazy because I think that record was like third. I want to say that state record was like 30 years old or 40 years old or something like that. So that was an unbelievable race. But that's when the interest really started, was after my junior year for track and field into my senior year after that race. So
And where were you getting interest from during that time?
yeah, so the biggest two schools that you would know would be Iowa State. Took a visit there, loved their facilities, loved their coaches, talked to them multiple times on the phone. Um, and then also Notre Dame was two. Those are the two big schools that you would know. Notre Dame, it was just not the right fit for me. I was just like, I never took a visit there. Talked on the phone with their coaches a few times. Just wasn't the right fit there. If I would have ran track and decided to go that route in college, I would have chose Iowa State for sure. Everything else was Division II, Division III, moving down. So
Oh, I got you. What year did you graduate high school?
2013.
And here's the reason why I'm asking that is just because of the evolution of technology and things like that, right? Because think
Mhm.
about when you said that those records were held for 20, 30 years or whatever. I'm pretty sure like during those particular time frames when you were running track, because you mentioned that year that you broke the state record, there was two other people that broke the record the same exact race, right? So it's just
Exactly.
weird. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy how like the evolution of technology. Because I'm pretty sure during those time frames, right, you probably had different type of recovery regimens. You probably had like
Hmm.
in type of like stretch coaches, all type of things during that particular time that 20 or 30 years ago these people didn't have those particular things. And it's just crazy to think that that record was held for so long with the evolution of how technology has been moving here more recently. You get what I'm saying? Like I just wanted
I
to put that
I
out.
completely agree with you.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah,
put that out in
absolutely,
perspective,
100%.
man, which is crazy because normally I don't ever think I ever seen, and I watch track and field during the Olympics and things like that. I don't ever think I've seen three individuals break one record in the same heat.
Hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we'd obviously have to do the research behind it, but yeah, it
Sure.
was pretty cool, man. It was just cool to be a part of that. Like that was something special for me, something special in my career that I hold on to, and still kind of keep tabs with guys that were in that race with me. Like there's a guy named Jacob Goldberg who actually finished right behind me. We almost had four that year that broke that record. He was literally 1/100th. He ran a
Oh wow.
154.01.
Wow.
And anyways, he was one of my good friends. He was also in my conference. He ran at Shorewood. I don't know if you know Shorewood High School.
Yep.
But anyways, he went on to run at the University of Kansas, then run at the University of Oklahoma. I think he transferred his senior year. But anyways, once in a while we'll keep in touch. I kind of kept track of his college career and stuff like that. So it's cool, man. Sports brings a lot of people together. That's for sure.
Now for sure. So the baseball aspect of everything, right? Um, what position did you play in baseball in high school? In high school?
Yeah, high school I played shortstop.
Okay. So two sides of the coin, right? So baseball is so fascinating to me because that's the only sport that I believe. Yeah, I would think this is the only sport that you can bat under 50%. You can do anything under 50%, and it'd be even if you're batting 350 or even 330, it's considered a good
Hmm.
season.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just put in perspective how tough it was to master the science of batting because that was my biggest thing. I think I would have been I was decent fielder. And this
Hmm.
is about you, so I don't want to drag this on, but I was a decent fielder
No,
or
you're
whatever.
good.
Play center field, play shortstop as well.
Hmm.
But I couldn't bat for anything. My batting average, I got pinch hit for every single time I was up to bat because I couldn't bat. I could do everything else, field and everything, but I could not bat to save my life. And I think baseball is one of the hardest sports that you can, if you want to say master as an athlete, I think is one of the hardest sports to master. Um, so shortstop and batting average. How did you bat during in high school?
Yeah, I had a really good high school career. I batted over 400 all 4 years of my career. Started all 4 years. My best year was my junior and senior year. I was all state 2 years in a row. My junior year, I think I batted 447, and senior year was like 452 or something like that. Um, yeah, it's been a long time, but yeah, those were some fun years, man. That was it's cool, man. Like I kind of go back to this. Like I talk about this all the time, but the things that the different sports brought to me, and not just from a athletic standpoint, but like from a team perspective, from a personnel perspective, and like baseball's way more chill, relaxed. It's not that like crazy hype, this and that, a bunch of fans, all this kind of stuff. It's much more of a mental game. You fail way more than you succeed, right? It's that type of sport. And then you get the football and basketball where you get the big crowds, you get the crazy
Right.
atmospheres, right? And then you get the track and field that can be really lonely. That's the like until you get to state, you're all on your own, man. You're training on your own. You're running alongside of two or three other dudes at practice. And like the grind is 90% by yourself. And then
Mhm.
once you get to the big stage, then it's fun. But like before that, all that work that gets put in, it's like everything behind closed doors and nobody gets to see that, right? And so
That's
that aspect of all the sports and baseball helped me so much mentally. Like if you can get through baseball, it makes football and basketball and all these other sports seem easy from a mental perspective. So
that's funny that you mentioned that because I never even put that in perspective when it comes to track and field. But you're absolutely
mhm.
right. Like especially if you're a type of athlete that loves the camaraderie and everything that comes with sports, you are kind of a loner when it comes to track and field because, like you said, you're doing everything on. I never really thought about that until you just really said that.
Yeah, and think about it too. Like think about even at the highest of high levels, right? Like we're talking the Usain Bolt Olympic level, right? I bet you can't even name me besides the 100 meter. Name me like 2 or 3 800-meter guys, 2 or 3 mile, and I'm talking about the best in the world. None of us can name them.
No,
So you're
not
talking
unless,
about the best in the
not unless
world.
you
We can't even
like
name.
not unless you like really, really, really into it. Like if
Exactly.
you're a casual fan of basketball, football, even baseball, you can name off athletes,
Hmm.
but you can't. Like I agree with you, you can't do it when it comes to track and field.
Yeah. So those guys are spending. Okay, every 4 years there's the Olympics, but even during the Olympics, only the top dudes are getting the recognition. So like, you got Usain Bolt that's in the Gatorade commercials and all that, right? But think about the fourth and fifth place dudes. They're in the final. They're the fourth or fifth best person in the world, fastest in the world, and they're not. I couldn't even name them. So like,
Yeah.
that's a really lonely sport, man. So I'll kind of get into that why I chose baseball instead of going the track route or something like that later on. But yeah, man, all those sports bring something special to the table. So that's why I've enjoyed it. But
Right. So you ultimately, and I previously mentioned you ended up going to college to play um, baseball, but we're also here because of your football pro career. So in high school for football, what position did you play in high school for football, and what honors did you receive in football as well?
yeah, so football was kind of a crazy story. We can get into that, and that's where some of the setbacks happen as far as injuries are concerned. Everybody has their injury stories, especially when you play the sport of football. And we'll get into more of that later. But freshman year, started at defensive back on varsity. Made first team all conference, the only freshman to make first team all conference. So I was kind of on cloud nine after that. I was like,
Yeah, talk, man. I like to talk. Talk. Listen. This is not a humble show. We here to brag a little bit too. So keep going.
no, hey, but you'll see me get humbled real quick. So
Okay.
that's what sports does to you.
Right.
So I was on the highest of highs after that. I was like, just making varsity alone, then starting and then being first team all conference. I was like, okay, well, I can do something special in this sport. Like that's when, when you're a freshman, you get up to varsity, but you still wonder if you could hang. Like you're still kind of like, all right, where do I fit in the loop? And then I was like, oh no, man, I can. After the first couple of practices, you're like, okay, I can play at this level, this and that. Then sophomore year, started the first 4 games at defensive back. Had 3 picks in the first 4 games. I was on fire. Then our quarterback went down with a ACL injury or something, starting quarterback, and I was the next guy to come in after that. So came in, man. That first game was the most fun I think I've ever had playing football, man, because it was like you're on the varsity stage as a sophomore, starting at quarterback. We are a good team fighting for a conference title. And so you just don't want to be that guy that came in for the starter and let everybody down. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
you're still in that sophomore mindset. Like you're still a young kid. You're still trying to learn the game, this and that. And so first game, I ended up scoring 5 touchdowns, 3 passing and 2 rushing. And from that point on, it like took my confidence to another level. And I want to give a quick shout out to a couple people who kind of helped me through this, because taking over the quarterback position as a sophomore, like as much as you can be confident in yourself, man, you need your teammates around you to like kind of pick you up and boost you up. You're still young. You're 15 years old at this point.
No, for sure.
And so a guy named Drew Jones, he was my right guard, right tackle, and then also Torrey Dibb, and the rest of my offensive line. But those were 2 guys specifically that I remember. When I took over the quarterback position, they kind of took me under their wing and just gave me a hug and said like, hey, like you belong here. So like, believe it. And I kind of needed that. You need that from an upperclassman. Like they were 2 seniors at the time. And I still keep in touch with Torrey Dibb. He was my left tackle. Shout out to him. He went to South Dakota State on a full ride scholarship to play football. He's not playing anymore, but he still keeps in touch with my whole career. He DMs me after games, stuff like that. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to those guys.
No, for sure. That's dope. That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah,
What I want to ask you though, real quick, and I want to stay here for a second. So you came in as a sophomore. Freshman year, you didn't play quarterback at all, right?
nope,
You were just
strictly
playing the
DB.
defensive back. How
Yeah.
how how were you so successful in reading defenses and coverages and shit like that your sophomore year, the first game of your sophomore year?
Yeah, I think it was a lot like I was still like my freshman year, I would play like scout team reps, stuff like that. So it's not like it was the
Got you.
first time I ever touched the football playing quarterback.
Got you.
So I was the next guy coming in. It's not like they just picked me up and said, "Hey, Jake, you about to play quarterback." Like I had reps, I knew the offense. I was still doing those type of things. Um, but yeah, but as far as reading defenses, man, you're right. You had an interview with somebody recently that played at Whitewater. What was his name?
You're talking about Steve Morris.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was funny listening to his interview because, man, it was very similar for me. Like, it was just an athlete playing quarterback. Like, of course, I knew like the basics, like, okay, cover three, cover two, this and that. Like, this is what zones we want to attack. These are the matchups that we want, like, da da da. But as far as like really, really breaking down, like, okay, how do we send this motion? What's going on in this motion? If this guy moves with the motion, what does that mean, right? Checking in and out of plays, like, do I attack the one technique? Do I attack the three technique with this run concept because it's easier blocking scheme for our line? Like, those are things that I had no idea. So a lot of times what it was like, shout out to Chris Smith too. I had a really good running back by my side, so that's always a help. He was he was an All-American in college. I think the all-time leading rusher at Upper Iowa. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe so. And then I also had Trey Palmer, which was a huge weapon. He's playing in the G League right now. Actually, just got a 10-day with the Pistons. But anyways, he was one of my receivers. And then a guy you won't know because he never played college ball or anything, but his name's Sean Andriauskas, man. One of the best hands I've ever played with. So anyways, when you're surrounded by weapons, a lot of times if you don't know necessarily like, oh, this is the defense that they're in, this is how we got to attack it with this concept, you can take matchups. So you can just look like, okay, Trey Palmer's going to win this matchup with this route, so I'm going to throw this route.
Right.
Sean Andriauskas is going to win this match, or this combination of routes is going to attack this DB in a way that we can exploit him, right?
Sure.
So you can kind of get away with things even if you're not 100% like super knowledgeable about the game of football. And then on top of that, you can fall back in your athleticism. Like, so I could run. I mean, run and track, right? Like all these things that we talk about, playing basketball, understanding angles. So you can always scramble outside the pocket and make a play. So you could always fall back on that. But that's kind of how that first ignition into the varsity realm was. Yeah.
So even then, right? I mean, because you kind of briefly touched on it, but you didn't really dive into it. Were you just really sticking at this point in time? So let me ask you this real quick. That sophomore season, were you the starter at quarterback moving forward for that whole sophomore season?
Yeah. So then we finished out. We won conference, which was huge for me. We actually beat, you'll know this name, Joel Stave. We beat them in the conference championship game. He was the all-time winning quarterback at Wisconsin, and he played in the NFL for a little bit as a backup. Yep. But we beat him. That was one of my favorite games of all time. We put up 72 points on them. I had 6 touchdowns. My running back had 5 touchdowns. We absolutely went off that game. So that was a fun experience. So when we won that, that's when I was like, wow, like this is the dream of dreams. Like, of course you wanted to win a state championship. We didn't, which was tough. But just feeling that conference title was like, man, that's something special in high school. You know, you kind of know how it is in high school in the moment. It's like, yeah, you want to win a conference title, then obviously a state title after that. But yeah, so.
Right. So I asked that because how were you getting to, your sophomore season? How were you getting to your second and your third progressions? Were you just really fixated on the first progression, or were you really like, did you have the wherewithal to say, okay, my first progression isn't there. I need to move off this first progression to get to my second and my third?
Yeah, my progression in high school, if you want me to be completely honest with you, it was first to second to run. First, second to run.
Wow, okay.
So first read, second read, take off, run, and scramble, find the open guy, right? That was pretty much it. And then we ran a lot of like zone reads. Like we ran the spread. So like there was a lot of zone reads, like reading the defensive end. You kind of know that, reading the outside linebacker, stuff like that. So, but it was pretty much 1 to 2 to run. Yeah, basically.
Gotcha. I was going to get to that too. Like if they curtailed the offense around you due to the fact that they knew you were more of an athlete than a quote unquote pocket quarterback or whatever, if they really kind of curtail the offense around you. But I think you just you just answered that for sure. With you being getting to those progressions and then you're taking off or whatever. So what accolades did you get in high school for football? What did you receive as far as after your freshman year? Because you said you made all conference your freshman year. But moving forward as a quarterback, what did you receive as far as accolades?
Yeah, so then sophomore year, I played half the season at DB, half the season at quarterback. So I wasn't even eligible for like first team all conference, nothing, because I only played 5 games or whatever it was at quarterback. Right. So I think I just got like honorable mention at DB because I had like 3 picks in 4 games, but that was it, something like that. Then junior year, this is kind of where the setbacks happened. So junior year, I had tore out my knee. So I was out for the first 5 or 6 games of the season. Then I came back. I played 4 games, played really well. And actually, our first playoff game, I put up like a 250 260 yards passing and like 40 something rushing. And that was the first time that I ever heard this name before. Shout out to the short QBs out there. But in an article later, we ended up losing that game. Kewaskum was unreal. They were undefeated that year. They were a cold team. But then there was an article written later on, and I don't know if you know his name, but Fran Tarkenton. He's like a little 5'8" guy, and they didn't compare me to him, but they kind of like mentioned his name, like he put in on his Fran Tarkenton impression in that game. So anyway, I don't think I got anything. I don't think I got anything my junior year.
For y'all out there, Fran Tarkenton was before Doug Flutie. Like Doug Flutie said in an article, if I'm not mistaken, I think I read an article that he kind of modeled his game after Fran Tarkenton. So just to put it in perspective.
Yeah. So you know your sports, that's for sure. So yeah. Anyways, it was the same situation my junior year. Like I only played 4 games or whatever it was, and I don't even think I was eligible. Like I didn't have the stats to put up. All those dudes that played 10 games, like there was no way I was going to compete with that with any of the quarterbacks in the conference. But I knew I still had a great season, so like I was like, man. And so that's when I got some interest from after my junior year. I started to get interest from the only Division I that gave me a shot, which was Drake University. It's in Iowa. It's a 1AA team. So shout out to Todd Frakes, man, because a guy who only played half his sophomore year, half his junior year, and then we'll get into my senior year where I was out for the whole season because of an injury. A guy who wanted to take a shot on me. Shout out to that guy because I want to kind of at this point send him an email and just be like, thanks for believing in me, because he was the one Division I school that was like, hey, this dude can play for us type of thing. So.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's super cool. So, how did those injuries? And I just want to tie a bow on your senior season, right? Or I'm not your senior season. I'm sorry, but your high school season. How did those injuries affect you when it came to baseball?
Yeah, so luckily baseball was so much later. So what was rough was like my first 2 years, I was almost healthy in everything. Like. And I think that's when maybe my body started to wear down just from playing that many sports from a young age all the way up. I think it was just like a slow breakdown.
Okay.
Possibly could have been some of the issue. But anyways, I was lucky because my senior year, it was my first game. And actually, you'll know this name too. We were playing against TJ Watt. We were playing against Pewaukee. And I hit him and my shoulder went out of place. And it ended up dislocating 4 times in that game, first game of the season. And so I was out for my whole senior year. So it was like, man, everything I worked for, man, it was like I'm banking on a half a year of my sophomore year and a half a year of my junior year, trying to put those stats together to make one big season and then send that film out to everybody. Like that was my goal, right?
Right.
And so luckily, like I said, Drake was the only school outside of some Division IIs and Division IIIs and JUCOs and whatnot. They were the only Division I, and that was my dream. I was like, man, I want to go Division I, like nothing else shorter than that. So anyways, I was out for that, but to tell you how it didn't affect my baseball was because, so I rehabbed that. I missed like a third or 2/3 of my senior season in basketball, but then I was back healthy. So it never affected my baseball career because all my injuries happened in football or basketball. So I had enough time to recover through track and field and then baseball for me to play healthy. So yeah.
Got you. So y'all do me a favor. I've never asked for this before, but I need to start doing this. I was told I need to start doing this. If you've gotten this far through the video, make sure you subscribe. There's a silhouette on the right-hand side of the baseline to goal line with the logo. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you got this low, and like and share and comment on the video, please. So as I previously, we've talked about it before, but you ultimately end up going to college to play baseball, right? Where did you play college for baseball? And first of all, answer that question first. Where did you play college for baseball?
Yeah, so I played at Sterling College. It's if anybody is familiar with the NAIA schools, it was a Division I NAIA school in the middle of Kansas, tiny small town, but great baseball program. The year before I got there, kind of the reason why I signed with them is because they were playing on the biggest stage in the NAIA, and so I was like, would you rather maybe try to get a low Division I place for baseball, like Valparaiso was, for example, a team that was looking at me? Do I want to go to a lower level Division I NCAA, or go to a team that possibly has a chance to win a national championship? So that was kind of the tie, which is like, which way do I want to go? And I thought that going NAIA route would be a better exposure for me, getting to the highest stage of there, rather than staying at like a mid to lower level Division I and trying to play baseball there. So that was kind of the
Yeah,
thought process.
definitely. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how the transition was for you from the high school ranks to the college ranks, because now you're playing against grown men. They can
Hmm.
pitch harder. They can hit further. They are quicker. Everything like that. So first of all, did you play shortstop in at Sterling University?
Yeah, so I kind of dabbled between middle infield. So I played short and second, depending on which lineup we had out there. And then my senior year, I actually started at third base just because of the lineup that we had.
Hmm.
But most of my career was at either short or second base.
How did you
So.
bat? Getting back to batting again, since I was so terrible at it. How did you
Yeah, no
bat?
worries. So yeah, I was pretty proud of my hitting career in college. So I batted over 300 all 4 years of my career.
Hmm.
Freshman year I batted 316. Sophomore year I batted 308. Junior year I batted 357, and then senior year I batted 350.
Oh wow. Okay,
So
so you
yeah.
and then what did we earn as far as did you get any honors or anything at all during in college? I know these
Yeah.
answers, but I want you to brag a little bit. So let's come on.
Yeah, you good. Yeah, so from a team standpoint, the best year that we had was my junior year. We went to the World Series. We finished top 5 in the nation. We got the best record still to this day at school history. We went 52-16. That was my
Mm.
best hitting year. I ended up hitting 357 that year with a like 486 on base percentage.
Oh wow. Okay.
Um, so that was our best season there. And then senior year was my best individual season in conference, which is the first time I got all conference honors at second base. And so I ended up hitting in conference. I hit like 472, I think it was. But overall, I hit 350 on the year, counting all conference and everything. But that was my best year for sure, as far as individual stuff. But yeah, so those were our biggest thing. Our sophomore year, we didn't win conference, but we still had a 40-win season. We went 45 and something, so another good season there. But yeah, so just my senior year, I got all conference. Other than that, I never got any All American honors, nothing like that, unfortunately. Still kind of
Hmm.
haunts me to this day, but it's all right though. We moving on.
Right. Definitely. Hey, so how likely is it? And this is dope that I have somebody on that's played baseball in college, because this is the first time that I'm interviewing somebody that's played baseball at the collegiate level, which is dope.
Mhm, mhm.
Because it's giving me a different perspective, and I can tap into some of the questions that I always, and probably even the listeners, the viewers, listeners and the viewers want to know about certain things when it comes to baseball. How
Mhm.
likely is it for someone from the NAIA schools to get drafted to the to the majors?
Yeah, that's tough, man. I mean,
Is
it's
it
tough anywhere you go. Yeah,
right?
but one cool thing where I got a little bit of insight on it. So my freshman year, we're talking about like that transition, right? You kind of touched on it. That transition from high school when you're all state, you think you're the man in your area, you think you're man in the state, and then
Right.
you go to college. Everybody has that eye awakening, like, oh man, this is a whole new level. And the first time I stepped in the batting cage, you meeting all your teammates for the first time. And the first 4 guys I met, they all got drafted out of high school. And so
Oh
I was like,
wow!
oh wow. Yeah, so we got
But you said the
Lejon
same
Baker.
thing I said, Jake. Oh wow!
Yeah, exactly. I said, oh man, this is about to be dead. Like I got some work to do. You know what I mean? And so we had
Hmm.
Lejon Baker, Juan Avena, Brock Asher, and Chris Jacobs. They all got drafted, but they were late round guys. And you know how baseball is, there's like 40, 50 rounds. So they were late round guys. And so they decided to go to college instead. So they went the JUCO route because usually baseball guys either go big time Division I or they go JUCO. That's
Mm.
kind of the two ways that people go if you want to get drafted.
Okay.
The JUCO guys
Also,
go there
oh
just
wow!
because,
So the JUCO ranks really holds high when it comes to
yeah,
getting drafted for baseball. Oh wow! Okay, cool.
yeah. And so the reason behind a lot of that is because those dudes are like, I really don't want to go to school. I just need another year to play
Mm.
baseball so I can so teams can see me play. So
Right.
let's go to a JUCO school and just focus pretty much on baseball. Maybe get my AA if I'm lucky, but if not, who cares? I'm going to get millions of dollars in the future. So
Got you.
that's kind of a lot of those guys' thought process.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you see a lot of that. Like talking to those guys, those 4 guys, I went into it with them a little bit, and some of the stuff they go through, man, in those like meetings. Like there was one man, my junior year, I was talking to one of my buddies, and he said the Brewers were looking at him.
Okay.
He was literally at the point where he was in the GM's office, like getting ready to sign the papers, like you're signing for blah blah blah. Here's your signing bonus, this and that. The guy leaves for like 10 minutes to go finalize it with the head GM or whoever, the owner, whoever it was.
Sure.
Leaves for like 10 minutes, and he goes, he comes back and he's like, hey man, we decided to sign 2 other guys for the same price that we were about to get you for, so sorry. And I'm like, it's just cutthroat, man.
Wow.
And so it's those type of stories that like it makes me appreciate the position that I'm in right now, because every year is a blessing. It's like you never know when a team can just be like, all right, well, we done with you. Like you're not performing the way we want you to perform, and it is what it is. And your dream is like this close. And I felt for the guy, man. But you get to, and there was another guy, Kendall Ratcliffe. He was our right fielder, our World Series year. He actually, it's crazy because NAI has different rules too, which is cool. The rules are more lax. So if you go, if you play professionally, there's like a certain amount of games you can play professionally and still come back to college in the NAIA. You have to like write a petition. There's like a process you go through. Anyway, so Kendall, he was playing rookie ball. He played 60 games or something like that at rookie ball, which apparently was still under the limit. But anyways, he has some crazy stories too, like talking to him about the clubhouse and like how management was handling him and this and that. So he was on the Rangers for 60 games, and then he came to us after that. So kind of those experiences, man, it's cool. Like it's just unbelievable the stories that you hear from this stuff, which is once again why I love your podcast, bro, because you're like bringing in a lot of these athletes, like Dwayne Wilson, for example. He's playing overseas, right? Corey Lucius, like dudes like this, Deontay Burton, like he played overseas and now he's G League and now he's all this kind of stuff. So people don't know all the ins and outs of all these things that are going on, like what leagues are out there.
So I think it's cool what you're doing, man. You're shedding light on it. I appreciate that, man, and we gonna listen because as I told you when we started putting together the information and getting everything situated for this interview, I didn't even know about any other. If it wasn't CFL or NFL, I didn't think football existed. So we're definitely gonna get there, man. So, but real quick before we get there, because you had an interesting story when you were telling me how you ended up playing professional football. And we'll get there in a second, but before we touch on that, I got a couple rapid fire questions I want to ask for you, okay?
Let's go.
Really quick. Favorite high school sport?
I'm gonna say football.
Football is your favorite high school sport, okay.
Yeah.
Your favorite, since you played in so many different sports, your favorite athlete of all time?
That's a good question. I'm gonna go with Deion Sanders or Bo Jackson, just because I looked up to those two guys.
Gotcha.
Multi-sport athletes at the highest level. Yeah.
Especially both playing baseball and football for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly,
and it's so crazy because I think Bo Jackson would be higher on a pecking order had he never got injured.
100%. People overlook his career, man, because it was so short. But that short stint was
amazing.
Impressive, that's for sure.
Because answer this. I know I said rapid fire, but now since I want to go, I want to touch on this because you said Bo Jackson really quick. Because when you think about the pantheon of running backs, he's never really mentioned in the top. Like you always hear Jim Brown, you always hear Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders is my favorite of all time.
My favorite too, 100%.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, he's my favorite of all time. Then you hear Walter Payton, you hear people like that. Even some, I've heard sometimes, people say Emmitt Smith, but you never really hear Bo Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another guy too, you mentioned Emmitt Smith last. I mean, he is the all-time leading rusher, and nobody talks about him very much, to be honest with you. So,
because I think also too, what do you think about this? Do you think it has something to do with him not being necessarily a more shifty running back? It was just more downhill, and also think about the offensive line that he had too.
I was just gonna say that. That's what seems to be the knock on him is that he had a great offensive line, this and that, but. I mean, I'd love to see. I think a great stat for running backs or skill positions, period, is yards after contact. So I don't know what his are, but I think that's one of the best stats.
Oh no, he's probably if he's. I guarantee you, he's top 3. I guarantee you, he's top 3.
And so, in my opinion, if he's top 3, like you say, then I mean, you gotta put him up there with. I don't care how good your offensive line is. Your yards after contact is crazy. I mean,
that's true.
Somebody got to run through somebody. So yeah.
That's true. Favorite country that you play for? That you played in, I
Oh,
should
that's a
say.
good
Not played,
question. I'm
not
gonna
not an
say,
organization, not an organization. Sorry about that. But the favorite country that you played in. Put it that way.
yeah, I'm gonna give you two answers just because of this. Lifestyle wise, like living, Brazil for sure. Football wise, Germany, 100%.
I kind of figured you were going to say Brazil for lifestyle wise for sure, because that would probably be
Yeah,
for different reasons. That would probably be number one on my list too for different
man,
reasons. Yeah, for sure.
best country in the world, in my opinion. Best weather, best food, best people, man, 100%.
You forgot about the women, man, but that's all right. We'll digress. Um, okay, so listen, because break down how you ended up playing professional football and what led you down because you know you didn't go to college for it. You ended up playing baseball in college. You had a pretty decent baseball career when it boils down to everything. You had a pretty good baseball career. How the hell did you end up playing professional football?
Yeah, so crazy story. So during college, you're obviously not supposed to play intramurals. It's like kind of frowned upon, especially if you're in a sport. But we were having football at the time, and so it's a little less strict when you're in season. And plus, we're in a small town. There's not so much to do. So like that was part of us passing the time. We would go play pickup basketball, whatever, sand volleyball, whatever it was. And so one year we decided because a lot of our baseball guys were good athletes and they had played football in high school. So we were like, hey man, let's get a team together and let's go play intramural football. And we were all like, all right, let's go just to have some fun, whatever. Like I said, we're in a small town.
Right.
So we ended up playing, and then we ended up winning the intramural championship. But in the championship game, we were playing against Reggie Langford, who has played overseas for many years. He was the quarterback at Sterling, the school that I was at previously. Now he was a coach there, and he was just like playing intramurals for fun type of thing. So we played against them in the championship game, and then he came up to me after, and he was kind of like, "Hey Jake, like I knew you were good in high school. Like I had heard about you, this and that, but I never really talked about my high school career in college. Like who really cares? But a few guys have heard through the grapevine about whatever. I ran track, I did this, that."
Right.
And so he was like, "But now I've seen you play for real." And he was like, "Did you ever think about playing overseas?" He said it to me, and I was like, I kind of first I had the same response that you did, and probably 90% of people do is like, "What are you talking about?" So he was actually playing in Europe at the time. I believe he was playing in the Czech Republic, if I remember right. But anyways, I was like, I kind of just put in the back of my head, I kind of laughed it off and just said like, whatever. That was my junior year of college. So senior year comes, finish out my senior year, and I'm in the I had just graduated, and so I was looking at overseas options for baseball. So I was like, I'll play anywhere, man. I don't care where it is for baseball. I'll go to Japan. I'll go anywhere you want me to go. Whoever is the first team that's going to take a chance on me, I'll go.
Right.
And so as I was doing that, I like just made my profile. I put up my resume together. I was like just sending it out like a weekend to sending it out to teams and stuff like that. And then I remembered in the back of my head that Reggie had told me that a long time ago. And I was like, so I hit him up in his DMs again. And I was like, hey man, can you tell me the process, like how you got started with it? I'm like, I'm just going to throw some stuff out there and see what happens. And he was like, yeah. So this is for all the viewers right now. You guys could take some notes on this. Join Podium is one website that I use, and also Euro Players. Euro Players will probably be better for guys starting up if they want to do that and play somewhere in Europe.
What was the first
But
one,
those
Jake?
two
I'm sorry.
platforms are really good.
What was the first one?
Yeah, it's called Podium. Podyum, I think it's spelled.
Okay.
Yeah. So Podium, and I created a Podium, and I created a Euro Players. And on there, basically what it does, it's like your resume. So you put like your highlight film, which I put my highlight film that I made from high school that I sent out to like Drake and all the other schools. I just put that. I put all my high school accolades. And this is where I think, I don't know for sure, but I think that my multi-sport resume helped me because it allowed me to create a resume that was like, look what I did at track and field, baseball, basketball, football. And so I was trying to promote myself as an athlete because there was no way that a team is going to take a chance on a kid that's 5'9", that's not an athlete, right? And so I had to use my size that would usually be a disadvantage, but I'm showing them like, okay, I'm a dual threat quarterback that has played in this spread system, that has played all these multiple sports and had success in multiple sports. So you guys can see that I'm a competitor, right? I kind of wanted to like push that narrative. That was like the best way I could promote myself at this point. because I didn't have the college accolades. Like there's dudes getting signed from University of Texas, Alabama, Clemson. Like how am I supposed to compete with that, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So then, anyways, it was funny, man. We were in Jamaica at the time. I had just taken a trip with my family. We were celebrating how I graduated, and we never took a trip with my brothers, so they were kind of celebrating their graduations. And we kind of did it all in one because I come from a big family. And so we were in Jamaica, and I received a message on Podium, and it was from a team in Brazil at the time. And they said, "Hey, we're looking for a dual threat QB. You seem to fit our system. Here's what we can offer you. What do you think about coming?" And I was like, "Oh, this is crazy, man." So right away, obviously, I responded like, "Of course, like, tell me when the date is and I'm coming." And so they booked my flight. I had to get my passport together. I had to get my visa together. Like it was a crazy time for that. We can go into that later if you want to or not. It doesn't matter.
No, it's all
Anyway,
good.
so like a month later, man, I was on a flight to Brazil. Never left the country besides Jamaica. Never left the country before. Never spoke Portuguese in my life. Barely knew the coach. I just knew him through a few text messages and a little FaceTime here and there. And I go into a brand new country, not knowing what to expect. And then 6 years later, I'm still playing. So that was kind of the process of getting there. And then
That's
yeah, so
that's crazy. But speaking of which, though, let's do something real quick.
yeah.
Let's look at something real quick, man. Speaking of Brazil,
Man, this is a throwback.
look at the hair, bro. Let
Man,
me
the flow
let
is
me
real.
six games, 29 touchdowns, 17 rushing. Wow. I just wanted to mute the music real quick so I can actually talk to you while we're doing this.
Yeah, you good.
This is cool, man. So this is in. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you. And look at this. Oh wow. Yeah, you got some speed on you, bro.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you got some speed on you, man. Um, how is because you're still doing it, right? And I definitely
Yeah.
don't want any figures at all. How is the pay playing football overseas?
Yeah, so it really depends, first of all, on the league, second of all, on the organization, because
Oh wow.
what all these organizations bank on is how many sponsorships they get.
Okay.
So the bigger the sponsor, the better the team can pay. So once again, I don't know if you want me to get into like actual numbers, but one thing is almost guaranteed in every organization. You'll
That's
get
listen.
your
That's
flight.
up to you. I listen. The number wise, that's up to you because that's your business, and you
Yeah,
can put it out there if you want to. I will never ask anybody about figures that they receive, but that's
yeah.
up to you if you want to put it out there.
No, for sure. I can definitely give you a range because I made from top to bottom all the way through.
Okay.
But one thing you're guaranteed in almost every organization is your flight. Both your flights are paid for, so they pay for there and back. They pay for your housing, they pay for your food, and they pay for your insurance, and they pay for your gym membership. So all your like necessities are paid for in most organizations. Then
Mm.
on top of that is where you negotiate your salary. So I've seen anywhere from guys have made $500 US dollars a month all the way up to 4,000. I've
Mm.
seen usually in like the Brazil / European area is kind of that range that
Okay.
I've seen. So yeah, it really depends on where you're at, but
Which
the
is
the
crazy.
hiring
I
stuff
mean,
is nice.
no, and it's dope because like as you previously, and we're still going through these highlights, which is I don't know if y'all watching this, but this is crazy. I should say I don't know. Y'all better be watching this if y'all still here, but this is crazy. Just some of these highlights. But I say that because like even in the situation that you just mentioned, even if it's on the higher end, let's just say it's $4,000 a month, you have no expenses because your housing is
Exactly.
paid for, your food is paid for,
Yep.
your gym membership is
Yep.
paid for, everything that you would probably think you need in order to survive as a player over there, everything is paid for. And
100%.
think about it, it's tax free.
Yep. 100%. Exactly, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, especially like living as a single guy too, like I don't have a family to take care of, this and that. For me, that's like beyond plenty. Like
Oh yeah, for sure.
I could get anything I want. I can go to any steakhouse that I want to. All that kind of
Hey,
stuff.
let me get the Jumpman logo real quick. Jumpman. Let me get the Jumpman. With 23 on too. Let me get the Jumpman logo real quick.
Yes, sir.
That's
I know
funny.
you a Jordan fan. I see the Jordan in the background.
Yeah, I'll touch on that here in a second, man. This I am a Jordan fan, but LeBron is my favorite player ever. And the only reason is because I saw LeBron play from his sophomore year all the way up through where he is right now. I've seen the maturation of LeBron. When I was when I was really able to understand basketball and watch Jordan, it was during the like the 91-92 season. So the first time he won the championship. So in '84, I was 4 years old when he won at North Carolina. So it was like I was able to see LeBron from where he is now to all the way back as a sophomore. So I saw the maturation. I believe Jordan is the GOAT. Don't get me wrong. I believe Jordan is the GOAT in my estimation. But LeBron is my favorite player that I ever seen play.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan and proponent of longevity, and I think people underestimate how difficult that is to sustain a career for that long and average 25 plus for whatever he is, 19 years in the league now.
Right.
Like a lot of people, yeah, you can have a good season here and there. You can have a breakout season here, but to do it for that many years when everybody knows you, they're focused on you, they're doing everything they can to stop you, and you can still put up 25, 30 a game. Like, I don't know, man. In my opinion, like, there's just nothing like LeBron. I like Jordan, but I'm a proponent of LeBron, and I'll fight for that.
No, and the funny thing is here's the thing, man. And we'll get back to you because this is all about you. It's not about LeBron, and it's not about. But we'll get back to that here in a second. Here's the funny thing: in a certain age bracket, the narrative is going to change, and you're going to have the majority of people when it gets down to a certain age bracket, they're going to think LeBron is the GOAT because at some point in time, when they saw Jordan towards the tail end of his career. And it's a little bit different when you're watching something and you're in the moment as opposed to going on YouTube and watching the highlights. You get what I'm saying? Like a lot of people have seen LeBron now and they've seen what he's doing in real time. A lot of other people, they're going back and they're looking at Jordan through YouTube and looking through it through highlights, but you couldn't feel the moment because you're looking at it through those particular situations. But I will say this. I think LeBron, when his documentary drop, it's gonna be nuts.
It's about to be crazy. Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be nuts.
Yeah.
So you end up getting to Brazil, man. First of all, for me, I don't even care about the rest of the people. This is a selfish question for me.
Go ahead.
Can you put into perspective Brazil, bro? Because that is one of the countries that I want to visit. And we talked about the weather, the atmosphere, but for me, the visually wise, if you get what I'm saying, how was it for you, bro?
Man, Brazil, in my opinion, is like there's no words that can describe it. It's seriously, I'm dead serious about this. It's so great of a country, in my opinion, that when I'm done playing, when all's said and done, I would love to either run a team, coach a team, or be the GM of a team over in Brazil and live there full time if I can make it happen.
Wow.
So that's how much I loved it there. And I really mean that. Like, I got some of my best friends there. The lifestyle there was great. I lived like 2 blocks from the beach, so I was there every single day outside of training. There is nothing like it, man. If I would recommend one country to go to, 1,000% Brazil. Like, I know, hey, you were talking, I think it was Corey Lucius. 2 or 3 guys said Israel, right? They were saying?
Well, it was Deontay Garrett said Israel.
Okay, yeah. Two guys said Israel, I remember.
And also it was Jordan Taylor who said Israel too.
Okay, that's right. The point guard for Wisconsin, that's right.
Yep.
But yeah, so like how they were adamant about Israel, that's like me on the same level for Brazil, man. That's got to be a place you got to go to.
That's dope.
And I was up in the Northeast. I'd recommend, if you want specifics, I'd recommend the Northeast, João Pessoa, Recife, Salvador, Natal, that type of area.
At this point in time, it don't even matter. I just need to touch soil on Brazil. I just need to have my feet in Brazil at some point in time, bro.
Absolutely, man.
So how many years did you play in Brazil?
Yeah, so I played 4 years in Brazil. Yeah, so worked my way up. So I started at it's like any job, man. Especially me not playing college ball. I had to start at there was a second or a state league in Brazil that I played for. So how it works in Brazil is like usually the first half of the year is the national schedule. Then the second half of the year is like the individual state schedules. So it's kind of cool because like we don't really have that in the U.S. where it's like imagine for example we'd have the Wisconsin State Championship run from August to December, and then you flip around in like the start of February till the end. You would take all the best teams in the country and they would all go at it. That's kind of what it would be similar to.
Hmm.
So
So
that's
kind
how
of like a
Brazil
world,
is run.
kind of like a world. Is it? I wouldn't necessarily say World Cup, but like a state cup. You know how like soccer has like a state well, it's actually the World Cup, but more so like a state cup. Is that what it is for Brazil or a country cup? I should say.
Yeah, so like just like anywhere else, there's individual states. So you have to claim, you want to claim to be. So for example, when I was playing at first, it was in Sao Paulo. So Sao Paulo has like 13 million or whatever people, 15 million people. So if we won that state, like that was the biggest thing for the second half of the year that you could perform in. But everybody's goal is to win the Division 1 national championship. Like that's what everybody
Mhm.
wants to win.
Got you.
And so that's like in preparation for getting to that moment. So that's kind of
Got
how
you.
it works. But yeah, so anyway, so I played 2 seasons in the state league, and then that's when I got my first opportunity to play at the national stage, which was like big time for me because I had to prove myself like anybody else, man. I had a really good season, state championship MVP, so that like kind of put my name on at least on the Brazilian map, not really anywhere else, but at least the Brazilian map kind of knew about me. Then I backed it up with another really good season in Sao Paulo again, and that's when another team from Recife called to play Division 1 for the national title, and that's when I went or the national season, and that's when I went to Recife for 3 seasons. I played there, but one season was a COVID season, so 2 seasons there. But
Okay,
yeah,
is this where you ended up winning the state championship game MVP?
no, so that was my first ever season in Brazil
Okay.
was that. Then I played another season. Then I went to the national stage. First season I played there in Recife when I was playing for the Mariners. I broke my leg, which was 3 games into the season. I had
Mm.
like 12 touchdowns through 3 games, and I was on fire. I was feeling good, feeling like in my prime, all that kind of stuff. Then I snapped my leg in the fourth quarter of a game. Rehab like crazy. Came back the following season. We had an undefeated season. And that's when my name was really like, okay, now I want to make this jump. Like that's when I was kind of itching to jump to Europe. But yeah, so then I didn't get anything from Europe. I was trying. I was like reaching out to teams. No teams. They were like, every team was, where'd you play college ball? I'm like, I didn't.
Mm.
Where'd you play college ball? I didn't. Kept running into roadblocks, right? And this is where I want to come back to. I would love people to watch in this interview, like especially all the young kids. Like I know you said you're gonna have a bunch of high school athletes on here.
Mm.
That saying that says like you never know who's watching is a saying that everybody has to live by, and I'm gonna explain it right now. 2 reasons.
Please do, because
First reason,
the reason why I say please do is because I've had several people reaching out to me. Man, I think what you're doing, your platform is amazing. People that I never even thought was paying attention, and so I'm saying that because this is resonating not just with the people who are watching, but with me as well. So please touch on that.
yeah. So 2 different situations where this became like super relevant in my life. First one was playing intramurals. Like every single person that would play intramurals would be like, "Who cares? This and that." But because I was actually trying, like we were actually trying to win it as a baseball team for whatever reason, we just wanted bragging rights, type of thing. But that because I was playing so hard in that game, it was the quarterback for the other team had played in Europe, and he said like gave me the confidence that I thought I could even do this or even put the thought in my head that this was possible, right? So that was the initial one. So that got me started. That at least got me my initial place in Brazil.
And you're talking about the
Then
guy
it's
who
my
actually
first year in
introduced you.
Brazil in the state champ.
You're talking about the
Exactly.
guy that we spoke about earlier. Got you. Got you.
Yeah. Reggie Langford. Shout out to him, man.
Hmm.
So then, first year in Brazil now, I'm playing in the state championship game against a defensive lineman named Tim McGee. He played at the University of Minnesota, I believe. Super great dude. If anybody needs help getting overseas to play football, type in this dude on Instagram and find him, man, because He's one of the best people I've ever met in my life.
What's
Anyway,
his name? Tim
so
McGee?
I played against him. So yeah, Tim McGee. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Anyways, yeah, he's played everywhere, man. I think he's playing and coaching in Hungary right now, something like that. But he's played in like 7, 8 different countries. He's played in Japan. He's played in all the top leagues. So, anyways, I was playing against him, and so he got to see me actually play in person, which at the time I didn't know anything about him other than he was a good player, right? So I'm playing against him, have a big game, had like 4 TDs that game, got state championship MVP. So didn't talk to him really. Like after the game, we said hi, like, hey, what's up, man? Good game, da da da. Went our separate ways. 4 years later, like I said, I get my first opportunity in Europe was because of him. And so he played for a guy named Daniel P. Coach P. He's actually coaching me right now at this moment. He was looking for a quarterback. Coach P had coached Tim McGee for 2 seasons when he was playing in, I forget what it was at the time. Anyways, he had a lot of respect for Tim McGee's like word, right? So as soon as Coach P reached out to Tim and said, hey, I'm looking for a quarterback, he mentioned my name. And that was the only reason I got my chance in Europe, because I was hitting a roadblock, man. It didn't matter what I did in Brazil. These teams were just like, no, we about to hire a dude from Alabama. We about to hire a dude from Texas, Clemson. It didn't matter. Jake, where'd you play college ball? I didn't. Jake, where'd you play college ball? Run into them roadblocks, right? But because of his word, it got me over there. And it's because he saw me play 4 years ago, man. 4 years ago, he saw me play in one game. And that's what catapulted my career into Europe. So that's to say, anybody who's watching this, man, it doesn't matter if you're playing on the street, a pickup game, at the park, you're playing an AU circuit. I don't care where you're playing. Give it everything you got, because there could be a random dude chilling on the sideline, an agent, a coach, a college scout. I don't care where it is, a brother of a college scout. It doesn't matter where. Somebody's going to find you if you're good enough, and then that could catapult your life into something that you never thought it would be. So
That's amazing, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. And because, like, you previously mentioned, man, you had all of this stuff that you just achieved and attained in Brazil. You had the state championship game MVP. You had, were you 3 times All Pro in Brazil?
2-time All Pro in Brazil, and then
Okay.
my last year I was All Pro again out here in Europe. So
Okay, so even 2 times All Pro, but they still needed a validation of you playing in college, which is crazy.
Exactly.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So you ultimately, when you ended up leaving Brazil, were you with the team that you are currently right now, or did you go somewhere else prior to where you landed right now?
Yeah, prior to that, so like I said, we'll get into that right now. So Coach Daniel Piesznik, the guy that I was just talking about, so he hires me on, and I'm completely stoked. I'm finally in Europe. I'm like chasing that dream. For me, at the beginning, when I just started this dream, it was to get to Germany. Germany is like the place to get to. And I'll explain later where now some other countries that I know is a place to get to too. But that was my goal. So I was like, okay, I got to step foot in Europe to at least get this opportunity to get to Germany. So I get there, and Coach P, it was crazy, man, how much faith he put in me. And I think this was because of Tim McGee's word. But he said, you're running the offense. We're not hiring any OC. So you're running the show. You're bringing in your own system. You can call every single play in the year. I'm not going to say anything to you. Like, you got full reins to take over the team. And that's it.
Oh, wow.
With that responsibility, that was my first time ever playing without an OC. Like, I've always had somebody, this and that, call this play. This is a good time to call this. You could break down film together. This was the time that I was fully on my own. And it was my first time in Europe. So I was like, I really got to take advantage of this, man. This was like an opportunity that might not come again. You might only get one. And so anyways, we ended up going undefeated, won a national championship, got first team All Pro, led the entire country in scoring, led the entire country in touchdowns. And so that's what catapulted my career even further now, to where kind of we're going where I got my first GFL, that Germany contract, which was huge for me because it was like my ultimate dream at the beginning. It was like finally in Germany, crazy experience, signed on there. My first game starting in Germany, I had a perfect passer rating, which was like my dream come true. I actually sat on the field after, and I was like, wow, man, like all the work that I've put in, all the no's, all the don't even answer my text, all of that was just like, for that moment, it was like, man, I'm finally.
It was kind of like validation, right?
Here. Not that I'm satisfied, but yeah, it was kind of like validation. Like I can do this, man. So yeah, but
Wow. So that leads to kind of where we are currently right now. First of all, when you got to Germany, did you think it was? Did it end up being everything that you thought it was going to be, as far as um, skills, like as far as the skill level, as far as pay, as far as everything? Was it all what you thought it was going to be?
yeah, absolutely. The only thing I wish was a little bit better was the weather. Like it was raining on like half the games that I played in. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of normal for me at this point. Like it's same as Poland here. It snows, it rains. You know, you just got to get lucky with the weather sometimes. But yeah, everything else, like the lifestyle, the athletes that I was playing with, like we had like 3 or 4 imports, and they were all Division 1 guys. One guy from Purdue, one guy from like South Dakota State type of thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, so everything from a football standpoint was like what I dreamed it to be, and then from a pay standpoint, obviously too, living conditions. Um, Live with some amazing dudes there, man. So yeah, for sure, it was like everything that I wanted, and now it's like just the beginning because I'm like, man, I'm not done yet. I want to like extend my career as long as this can last. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna stop anytime soon as long as I can stay healthy. So
That's dope, man. That's dope. So currently, where you are right now in Poland, is that is that a step up? Is that a lateral movement, or is it a step down? How is it in reference to where you were in Germany?
yeah, so this is kind of the same situation that I was talking about in Brazil, similarly. So what people got to realize if they decide to play overseas is like there's like 2 halves of the year. But now what's going on is like because of COVID, kind of screwed up some of the like time frames. So it's hard for you to go from like I'm just gonna go here for this country and I'm gonna play in this country because some of the seasons are like starting to overlap, which is making it a little bit more difficult to like play in 2 countries where like the level of play is like as high as you want it to be. But to say that, so what I'm hoping is going to happen is so here's the top leagues. We can just name it like this. Obviously, the NFL is number 1, right? But we'll talk about outside the NFL because everybody knows that. So CFL is the best league overseas, or not overseas, but out of the country, right? Second best is Japan. Third best is now the ELF, which is the European Football League, which just got introduced this past season. So this is only their second season in it. Then it's the GFL. So the GFL is the 4th best league in the world. The 5th is Mexico. So that's your top 5. They just came out with some rankings recently. So if you can get into that top 5 range, now you at least have a shot at like making a CFL roster, possibly. I mean, still outlandish, but possibly making an NFL team from a team like this. You probably have to go CFL and then to the NFL type of thing. So, anyways, that being said, Polish season, I needed it because I needed a job. So it's a lateral movement from when I obviously played in Poland last season. And it's a good level of football, and it keeps me in Europe, which is the biggest thing for me because my goal now is to either get this team to join the ELF if we get enough money and we show that we're worthy enough to get in that league, which would,
Right.
which would be the 3rd best league in the world, which is like really where I want to be. That's where all the eyes are. So my goal is to get this team into that league, and so we have like a big season coming up. Obviously, we got to do what we got to do, but that's kind of the goal. Because what's happening right now is my Polish season is going into the Germany season. So it's like, shoot, the dream would be playing Poland the first half, playing Germany the second half, or
Mm.
playing Poland the first half, playing the ELF the second half, or playing Japan the second half, whatever it is. So that's kind of where I'm running into a problem here. So we'll see what happens. But next year, what I'd like to do, if possible, is either get this team in there or I'll just have to wait a few more months and then join the ELF team or join a team in Germany a little bit later, even without a job in the US, and then just figure out what I can do from there. So
Got you.
that's kind of where we're at.
I got you. So where you currently are right now, how are you guys? First of all, how far are you into the season right now?
Yeah, so first game is actually this week.
Oh
So
wow! So we ain't even okay.
we've just been
Cool.
in preseason. Yeah, so big game week for me. Super excited to start the season. I think we got a great roster. Um, so yeah, now it's go time, man. This is the time when it's fun. Like you go through the preseason's a grind, man. I got here like middle of January. Obviously, with new teammates, with new personnel, you got to install, different things, different verbiage, different roster stuff. Um, figure out who's going to be your go-to guys, your starters, this and that. And so yeah, it's that grind, and you know, it's winter, the snows, the rain, the cold practices. So now this is when it gets fun, man. It starts to warm up, and obviously games are going. So yeah.
How do you think you guys are going to fare this season? Like, do they do, you know how in the NFL we do power rankings and outlooks for every single team and things like that? Is it the same there? And if it is the same there, where are you guys falling in the pecking order? And how do you think you guys are going to fare this season?
Yeah, the power. It's funny you say that. The power rankings just came out, I think, 2 days ago or something. And yeah, we were picked to win it. So that's
Oh
a lot
wow!
of. Yeah, it's good. It's a lot of.
Who was it because? Did they say that you know this Fran Tarkenton type of quarterback is going to lead blah 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 to the you know?
Yeah, I think a big part of it was like how I won the national championship last year. We went undefeated, and then I brought like myself and like 7 of our guys from that team to this organization. And so I think that's a big part of it. We also signed a couple guys from Germany, which is so like our roster on paper looks really good. There's like
Gotcha.
a lot of talent there, but now it's about putting it together. Like you got to perform, you got to execute like anything. But yeah, man, I'm excited. So
So you really do got a future in to be a general manager, putting rosters together and things like
man,
that.
man, I hope so, man. I mean, I'm not an expert at it, but I do know what
Sure.
I like as a quarterback. So like, there's specific things that I look for in my receivers, running backs, and even guys that I hate playing against. So like, I know playing DB myself, I know what I don't like, I know what I like, and so I think, man, I mean, that's the dream. So we'll see. I got a lot of learning to do from that side of things, especially from a business standpoint.
Let me just
But
put
it's
something
definitely
out
a
there.
route that I want to get into. Yeah.
That's my dream job, is to be a general manager. And I
Mm,
think I would want to be a general manager. Of course, my first love is basketball. So I would want to be a general manager of a basketball team. I
okay.
understand rosters. I understand salary caps. I understand all of that stuff. I kind of like it's disgusting because sometimes I kind of like study that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that would be one of the dopest jobs is to be a general manager of either a football team or a basketball team. That
Yeah.
would
one
be
Hundred
so
percent,
fun.
man.
That would be so
Yeah.
fun. Um, Real quick, because we mentioned it before, but you here, so I got to big you up. What does BFA Division One stand for? What is BFA?
The Brazilian Football Association.
That is Brazilian football, and PFL is where you are currently right now, right?
Yeah. The Polish League of Football or Polish Football League.
Got you. So let's do
Yeah.
this real quick, man. We're gonna go back to some of your highlights from last year. Let's go ahead and big you up, man. Let's mute this real quick because I want to 29-5, 128 touchdowns. First team All Pro, led the country in touchdowns, led the country in points per game with 33 a game. And people are still questioning this, bro. Like people still questioning, like that's crazy. Now, is the field and everything standard, like with regular regulations, 100 yards and everything? Oh my God, off the back foot.
Yeah. That's my guy Kuba right there, man. That's my boy. That
Mm-hmm.
man went off last year. Man, it's bringing back some good memories right here. That's for sure.
Good, man. I like hearing that when I show these highlights to people, man. And just seeing their reactions and seeing everything. But Jake,
Yeah, I
as
think
far
it's
as
cool, man. My
go
bad.
ahead.
One thing I wanted to shout you out for, man, is I love how you start a lot of your stuff with like, I want to give you your flowers, man. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that because I think a lot of athletes, like, I don't know, they just love to be appreciated. And I think you're doing that with this podcast, man. And I think it's cool. I really think it's cool what you're doing. So
I appreciate you, man. No, that means a lot, man. I definitely appreciate it. And you know, funny thing is man, you've been a proponent. You've been telling me that since we actually came into communication. And I appreciate you for saying that, man. It's humbling. It really is because at the end of the day, I like the fact that I can go from, and I say this all the time. People who's coming back and listening for constantly, they're probably getting sick of me saying this, but it's the God's honest truth. I like the fact that I can fan out and I can be a fan in these moments.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? And like ask these
absolutely.
particular questions and give people, like you said, give people the flowers that they deserve, because we didn't have this growing up, man. I keep saying this too. We didn't have these type of platforms growing up, and we didn't have the
Yeah.
opportunity to give people a chance to talk about their playing careers and stuff. And I want to be a catalyst for that. I want to be, you know, yeah, it's easy. I shouldn't say it's easy, but the most popular thing would be to get people who are well known, and oh, he got such and such and such, or he got this person that plays in the NFL. And but no, what about the, yeah, that is the ultimate goal, to get those people, but I don't want to leave out people who have a story that needs to be told as well. You get what I'm saying? Like I want to have
Absolutely.
a combination of both.
Yeah. And what I think is cool is like you were kind of talking about this, you touched on this earlier, but what I love about this interview is I hope it gives even just one guy like a reason to be like, wow, like there's overseas football, because all it took was one guy for me. And like I told you, it changed the trajectory of my life, man. Like it's given me so many experiences that I'll never forget. It allowed me to extend my career. It allowed me to kind of like, you go through injuries in high school and you're like, man, what could have been? What could have been? Like you just have all these what ifs. And
No,
now I don't
exactly.
have to live. I don't have to live with the what ifs anymore. And it's because of one guy. And he just gave
Right.
me the opportunity, and he just said like, hey, I think you should try this. So I think you're doing that with this podcast, man. So I hope at least one guy, I don't care who it is, what athlete, takes this and gets one opportunity overseas and gets to live out the dream. So
That's dope,
yeah,
bro.
man.
What are your measurables right now, Jake? What is your height? What is your weight? What is your 40 time? What are you measuring at right now?
Yeah, so I'm 5'9", like 175 pounds roughly. I've been that same. I feel good at that weight. I've been there since like 4 or 5, 6 years in a row.
Hmm.
40 time, I can't even remember the last time I was clocked, to be completely honest with you. And I never went to like a combine, nothing like that. And I've never had an electric time. They did in high school. They did a hand time, which was a 4.6, but I doubt that was true. I don't think I'm a 4.6 type of guy.
You
Um,
think you're quicker, or you think you're slower?
No, I think I'm slower than that. I don't think I'm a 4.6. Maybe 4.6, but I don't know. That might be stretching it. So I'm more. I'm pretty realistic, man. I'm good with angles. I understand how to get out the pocket. I'm quick side to side.
Sure.
I think my movements are good in the pocket. I'm quick for like spinning out of things, like getting my first 5 yards are really quick from like a stand start to a go. So that's where I think I thrive more than like my straight line speed, like gonna outrun somebody. So
Got you. Hey, so really quick, I think I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you answered it, and if you did, I apologize. But as far as like the um, the field wise, is it 100
mhm.
yards? Is it the same as a regular football field? And then some of the rules. Like, can you touch on some of the rules? Is it the same 15-minute quarters? Overtime rules, are they the same? Like, can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So once again, depends on the country too. But yeah, everything's the same. The only big difference is like they go by college 1 foot inbounds instead of two.
Got it.
So that's a big one. The as far as the fields, they're the same size. All that's the same. Obviously, 11 man on the field.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of any other major rule changes or stuff that's different than the U.S., but I don't think so. Yeah, everything's pretty traditional or pretty standard. So
How are the rules when it comes to overtime?
I've actually never been in an overtime game, so I actually don't. I couldn't tell you. I would guess
Oh,
it would
wow.
be like, yeah, I've never been in an overtime game. I would guess it would be like the old college ones, which are you get the ball to 20, and then each team gets the ball, and then you just go until somebody scores and somebody doesn't.
Got you.
That's what I would guess. But
Oh
actually,
my
yeah, that's
God, man!
actually a good question, man.
Look at Houdini, man! Look at you. Yeah, that would be interesting to know about the rules. Real quick, also too, man. What I like to do is, do you guys, is there a link to your to the games that viewers can check out?
Yeah, usually you just go on the team's Facebook, and they'll put a YouTube link that live streams it,
Okay.
for the most part. So whatever team you want to watch, whatever league you want to watch, you can just look up the team name, and they usually post it the day of the game,
Okay.
or,
Make sure
or even the week of.
make sure you send me that link. Okay.
Yeah, for sure, man. I got you.
Yeah. Make sure you send me that link.
Yeah,
What's going through your mind looking at this, man?
man. This was everything to me, man. Like I told you, being the full-time OC, getting to run my own system, call every single play. We go undefeated. We win a national championship. Led the nation in touchdowns, led the nation in scoring. So, like, there really couldn't have been a better way to like introduce myself to the European game. It was kind of like my dream from when I started playing. So, yeah, this year was everything to me, man. And I'm never satisfied. Still not satisfied. But yeah, man, this is like brings back a lot of good memories. Another cool thing, little side note. So my parents never got to see me play in person overseas while I was in Brazil. My mom was still working. My dad was still working at the time, so it was tough for them to leave. So they would just live stream it. The first game they ever got to come to watch me play overseas was the national championship game this season, and they
Oh,
came to the
wow.
game. And so I got to celebrate with them on the field. I got a picture with them with the trophy in my hands, and like that's one I gave them for Christmas. And it was a pretty special moment for me because it was the first time in 5, 6 years that they got to see me play football like live, and it was in the biggest game of my life. So
That's dope,
that was
man.
pretty
That's
special.
that's
Yeah.
super dope. That's super dope. What you being an OC of this team, what kind of offense were you running?
Yeah, so we run the spread. We run a lot of 2x2, 3x1. We
Hmm.
also run some 20 personnel with a fullback. And yeah, it's a lot of zone read, get the ball out of my hands quick. Um, and then yeah, I mean, we could go into everything if you want to, but like obviously like reading the defense. Okay, what kind of box do they have? Checking in and
Right.
out of plays. I got a full like hand signal system where I can change the play at the line of scrimmage. I can change an individual receiver. I can change a side. Um, so yeah, man.
Who do you think? Who would you think that if somebody said, you know, who would you want to? You gonna run people over? Good one. Okay, I like that too. Oh, this is dope. This is what you're talking about right here, right?
Yeah, right there. Yep, that's the picture, man.
That's dope, man. I'm glad I let this run, man. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. Who do you model your game after? If somebody would say, Jake, you who is your game modeled after?
Man, that's a good question. Growing up, not that I'm anywhere near the athleticism, but Michael Vick was like my quarterback that I looked up to. I think it was every dual threat quarterback growing up, like Michael Vick was the
Holy
man to
Grail,
look at.
man. That's the Holy Grail.
Yeah. Another guy, obviously, I mean, just from a size standpoint, is like Kyler Murray. He's a lot more athletic. He's a lot bigger. He's like 210. So he's got another like 35 pounds on me. But I like the way that he plays, his pocket movement. And then the last guy would probably be Russell Wilson. But once again, I mean, those guys are on a whole new level. Like I know where
Yeah.
I'm at physically, but those are guys that I kind of look up to and try to. It's like you never want to be labeled as like I don't ever want to be labeled as just like a running quarterback. And where I feel like Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson do such a good job of is like they're not really labeled as that. It's like they run because they can,
Right.
but it's not like needed. Where you look at a guy more like Lamar Jackson and guys kind of fault him for like not being able to throw. So I
Here,
never
here's
want to be in that category.
here's the funny thing. This is this I like touching on this stuff too because as controversial as it may sound, it's just the guy's honest truth and it's real. What you just explained is what a lot of black quarterbacks go through.
Hmm.
They go through the stigma of, oh, you're a running quarterback that can throw.
Hmm.
Not necessarily a quarterback in general, but they go through that stigma. So it's just interesting to hear from the opposite racist side of the spectrum where you don't want to be labeled as that. It's just
Yeah.
ironic and it's interesting. It's interesting to hear that, man, because that's what a lot of the black quarterbacks get labeled as is that they're more of a running quarterback who can actually throw, as opposed to just being labeled as a quarterback.
Man, and I just never understand that. Like even guys like who are labeled like that, like Lamar Jackson, for instance, bro, that guy can throw too, man. Like you don't make the NFL, you're not in the NFL if you can't throw. Like he's an
Right.
MVP of the league. Like what are we
Right.
talking about here? That's where
Exactly.
it's just unbelievable. Sometimes the critics and the skeptics and I wish they stepped one foot in the quarterback position, and I swear they would change their mind on like what's actually going on behind there when you got 6'4", 260 running at you full speed, and these guys run 4.6, 4.7 40s. And at this point, it's crazy now. Like I just seen that one defensive lineman in the draft run a 4.4.
Or
I'm like,
four.
man, yeah, this
Yeah,
is
man.
crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So I'm like, man, if these critics would take two snaps behind the line of scrimmage, they would change their whole perspective on like what really goes on back there, you know. But
So real quick, so before we get out of here, I got a question for you. Packer fan?
Not really. I grew up a Panther fan. Got a lot of
Okay.
respect for Aaron Rodgers though. Grew up watching Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. So, but never. I never label myself as a specific fan of a team. I just love watching good quarterbacks. So I don't care who it
Okay.
is. I'll watch a
So,
good quarterback.
so let me ask you this then: what are you more so looking forward to this year? Do you follow the draft? I'm assuming you do.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Um. Okay. So let me ask you this then. Let's just revert it. What is the biggest news for you during the offseason thus far? Like, what do you think the biggest move was during the offseason to catapult the team to the next level?
Oh, that's a good question. I love the Broncos move, getting Russell Wilson. I
Yep.
think their defense is already legit, and so adding him, I think they finally got a piece that they can win with. Um, man, I
The
mean, we're
AFC,
not
the
talking about this year.
AFC West, the AFC West in general is going to be a gauntlet. If you make it out the
Yeah,
AFC West, you deserve that championship this year.
yeah, yeah. And then, I mean, that was more of this year, but I love the Odell move when the Rams picked up Odell. I love that move, man. Even though he got hurt in the Super Bowl, he was on pace to get the Super Bowl MVP, man.
Bro,
So
I was saying the exact same thing, and I wish that he would have been healthy because I would have loved to see Odell. I think you know what I like Odell. I just think he's so misunderstood, and
I agree
people
with you, man.
people equate him being as passionate as he is to being an asshole or being arrogant or whatever the situation.
Hmm.
And it's not that's not the case. I just
Hmm.
honestly think he's passionate about the game of football. And it may go
Hmm.
overboard a little bit, but I just think he gets such a bad rap. And I was so happy to see him win the Super Bowl. If only he could have stayed healthy, he would have been a Super Bowl MVP because he was on pace to have a ridiculous game.
Yeah, he was definitely going for over 100. He already had like 75 or something, or 60, 60 something in the first quarter and a half, maybe. So
Yep,
yeah, I think a
definitely.
lot of guys, man, we talk about that. I think a lot of guys are misunderstood. It's just crazy how the media can like set a narrative on these guys, and I feel bad for a lot of them. Like, there's nothing they can do to change it.
No, it's
It doesn't
not.
matter how good they are after that. It doesn't matter, man. Once that's set, it's so hard to get that stigma like away from them. And yeah, man, it's just like sometimes being in that limelight is difficult.
Here's the irony, man. That's the reason when I started doing this and I was doing kind of like recapping the week in sports, talking about sports athletes, talking about storylines and stuff like that. The reason why I went away from that was two reasons. One of the main reasons why I went away from that is because sometimes when I was done editing the videos and uploading them, that topic wasn't relevant anymore because media and news moves this quick, right?
Hmm.
And then I thought with this aspect, somebody can come a year and a half from now, if they don't know the characters involved, if no one knows who Jake Schimenz is, they're going to look at this interview and it's going to be brand new to them.
Hmm.
So that's one of the reasons why I went to it. The main reason and the second reason why I went towards this aspect is just because of the way media twists stories and they just add different narratives. And the biggest thing that bothers me a lot is if one person loses a game, how does what bothers me is how does this they always say go to how does this affect their legacy as if the whole 15-year career that they
I
went through
know.
is automatically erased. I'm like, dude, one game doesn't affect somebody's legacy. What are you talking
Exactly.
about?
You know who's going through that? I mean, we touched on it before, but LeBron's going through that right now. They're saying because he missed the playoff or because he's about to miss the playoffs, that affects his legacy. I'm like, the last 20 games, this man is averaging like 38, 40 a game. Like, what do you expect? It's a team game at the end of the day, man.
And you
It's just
can't erase 19
unbelievable.
years. You can't erase 19 years in the
Yeah.
history. You can't erase
People
19
still
years.
talk about the Dallas series. I'm like,
Yeah,
man, can somebody put that to bed? That was 2011. Like, can we
yeah, for sure, for sure.
can
Hey man,
we
listen,
get over that at this point?
man,
But
it's nuts. It's
yeah,
nuts,
man.
bro. Jake, listen, bro. This was so in depth and it was so informative. Man, I appreciate the hell out of you, bro, because you put a lot of stuff into perspective for me. You put a lot of different things that I had questions about to bed when it came to baseball, number one. Because I would watch baseball, but I only watch baseball during the playoffs. That's the only time, or
Hmm.
if I'm actually physically at the game. And if I'm physically at the game, I'm there for the festivities and not necessarily watching it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
It's a
saying?
social event. Yeah.
It definitely is. And then number two, the aspect of professional football overseas. Um, as I previously stated, I never knew anything about it, so I'm glad that you came on to break everything down and put things into perspective. That hey, listen, the NFL and the CFL is not it. If you guys want to play professional football, there's other outlets and other ways to play professional football and make a living by playing professional football, which is dope because I would guarantee you, and I don't want to necessarily put a number on there, but I'm going to anyway. Damn it, it's my show. I can do what I want to do. I would say 70%. I would honestly will put a percentage on it. I would probably say 70% of Americans don't know about leagues outside of the CFL and NFL, and it's probably higher than that.
100%. Hmm.
It's probably higher than that. But I just want to put up, because I thank you for that because it's just putting a lot of different things in perspective. And I appreciate you coming on, man, because I learned a lot. Um, I'm even more of a fan now than what I was prior to, just by hearing your story and everything like that. I'm gonna follow you this season. I'll tune into as many games as I can, definitely. When that next big contract comes or that next big thing comes, I want you to come on and actually announce it on the show. That would be dope. Come on and announce it on the
Man,
show.
that's awesome. Yeah, my it's funny you say that. If there's like a bunch of my high school coaches that my mom still sends them like little articles and stuff from my high school coaches back in Brown Deer, and there's like a group of like six of them, and they said if I ever sign in the CFL for a year or whatever, they're all gonna take a road trip and drive up to Canada to watch me play my first game.
That's
And so it's
dope.
kind of similar to what you're saying, but I think that's awesome, man. I always appreciate the support. I don't take any of it for granted because I think there's a lot of people out there. Like I said, I was pretty blessed growing up from the standpoint. You hear a lot about athletes who, oh, my kindergarten teacher told me I would never make the NBA, so da da da. Oh, this coach said you got to be realistic. You're never gonna make the NBA.
Right.
I'm truly blessed. I don't have that story. My parents never said, Jake, you can't go play professionally. They never said, Jake, you can't go Division One. They never said, Jake, you're too small to do this. None of my high school coaches ever said that. None of my college coaches ever said that. And so, man, I'm pretty lucky. So I want to spread that same type of positivity in the way that you're doing it too. Man, that support means everything to me, man. I don't take it for granted because some people don't get it. So I really appreciate that, man.
And I appreciate you, man. It was I appreciate the fact that actually when I reached out to you, um, not even necessarily on like I'm gonna touch base with you because of this. It was just an organic conversation, and you were telling me about your relationship with Dwayne. I was like, and as you started following me, I just started looking at your profile. I'm like, wait a minute, I need to get him on because this is crazy. So I appreciate the fact that you said no. I'm sorry that you said yes without any hesitation that you was with it, man. And I'm glad I got a chance to do this. Um, I wish you well, man. I wish you success. My line is an open line of communication to you whenever you need it. This show is an open platform to you now whenever you need it. If you need to announce
Hmm.
something, if you want to talk about something, you're always welcome to come back, man. I appreciate you for sure.
Cool, man. Hey, also tell if any viewers reach out to you about like, hey, I saw that interview with Jake, da da da. You can send them my way if they need information as far as
Definitely.
like how do I get started with this process. Man, I'm here to open doors for people. I'm not here to close them. So anybody that reaches out, I'm not necessarily saying I'll put in a good word for everybody because my name is still on the line. Like I can't send a guy to an organization,
No,
but I
I
can
got
show
you
him the process. I can show him the process of getting that first opportunity. So yeah, send them my
for
way,
sure.
man. Anybody.
Do you any shout outs you want to give out before we get out of here?
Man, just a couple guys. My family, of course, my mom and dad, they'll definitely watch this interview all the way through from start to finish. And a big shout out to Mike Donahue, man. He was my baseball coach in high school. Still keeps in touch with me to this day. I used to drive his kids to school. Um, and just like one of my biggest supporters, man, from the day that I stepped into high school all the way through even now. Like I still get dinner with him every time with him and his family every time I go home. He's a big one that always believed in me, never doubted me for a second. And then the last one is my grandfather, who he passed last year, right before our playoff games, and so
Hmm.
he spent so much time with me, man, and like it was difficult. I don't want to get too emotional, but I wanted him to see me win that national championship, and he never got to see it in person. And I know he was going to make the trip out with my parents. And so that was a tough one for me to swallow, but I know he's watching from upstairs, and
No,
I know
and
he's
you know what
proud
the
of me.
funny
So
thing
that's a
is?
big shout out.
I guarantee you he was there with you when you won the national championship for sure, bro.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So big shout out to all of them. And yeah, my family is everything to me. So
Definitely, man. I want to give you a shout out, man, for the stuff that you're doing right now, and like I said before, man, continue success. Um, I think it's just the beginning. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm more interested to see, because of all the knowledge and stuff that you have, the next chapter of your life. That's what I'm more interested to see. Is like, you know, because here's what I'm gathering from you, and I don't want to get too long-winded with this, but this is what I'm gathering from you. I think more so your purpose is to help people. Put people in position, put people in situations to become better. From all intents and purposes, me knowing now that you were the offensive coordinator for your previous team, and me knowing that you have an eye for certain things, bro, I think you're gonna make we're gonna talk it into existence. I think you're gonna make a great GM.
man, I appreciate that.
I definitely think you're
Yeah,
gonna
I
make a
think
great
you're
GM.
I think you're right, man. I don't know if there's ever like, I don't know if I'm huge on like, oh, you have a purpose or this or that. But one thing that I know is I've been in all the positions where it's been like, I see those guys that are maybe overlooked, or oh, he's a little bit shorter, but that dude's a competitor, or those little it factor, this that,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
want to be the catapult, not necessarily maybe for my team, but be a catapult to help as many people get an opportunity to play, man. Because I told you this has changed my life. I got people, teammates, ex-teammates that are gonna stand up at my wedding one day whenever I decide to settle down and get married. Like
Nope.
these, more than football, man, these experiences that I've had overseas is the best ever. The people that I lived with, the people that I played with, my coaches, the fans, like, man, you have some unbelievable signing autographs for little kids. Like, you got so many different experiences that can't be replicated, man. And so, what I feel like, if you want to say like my goal or whatever in life, it's to give those people that maybe didn't play college ball or was a hell of a high school athlete but just never decided to move on, or a guy that's cold in college that just didn't make it to the NFL, is be
Right.
like some type of bridge to get them that opportunity, that first opportunity. Then it's for them to run with it, but at least get them the
That's for sure.
opportunity to live it out. So
That's dope, bro. That's dope.
yeah,
Thank you for the viewers who watched. Your support for me is always appreciated. I'm pretty sure Jake can attest to what I just said as far as the support and everything, because, you know, yeah, this is the platform for Baseline to Goal Line, but he's going to bring viewers to this, so I appreciate you guys as well. As I always state, well, I shouldn't say as I always, but what I'm going to continue to state before getting out of here is make sure that you keep your mental and your physical health first, because without that, the foundation of your life and your being is nothing. Make sure you keep your mental and your physical well-being first. Thank you, Hylux, for sponsoring the video. Thank you, Hylux, for the sponsorship in general. I am Alan Cole BZ Colburn. This is Baseline to Goal Line. Until next time, I really appreciate you guys. Peace and love.